Testing, testing. Yes, finally.
Well, I certainly didn't expect a session like this. Yeah, it is savage. I love waters like this. So today you join me on Esnes, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this session here. It's a great water all year round, but this is when it comes into its prime. Winter bites is what this place offers. It's a deep pit, so it's a little bit, it takes longer for it to shut down, you know, and by all accounts from the news feeds and the emails I keep getting, this place is doing plenty of bites and I cannot wait to get started. All I've got to do is get myself down there. On this complex here, you book your peg, but at the moment, I'm the only one on, so, you know, if I see fish elsewhere, I can always move. That's not an issue. But I'm going to start off with going to the peg that I booked because it's quite close to the car park, which is always quite handy when you've got all the camera gear. Yeah, and let's just see what this session brings. But it's certainly an exciting one. I'm going to go through all the methods that I use, how I feed these deeper lakes, you know, hopefully how I catch them, show you how to catch them, and show you this remarkable venue. I mean, yeah, normally in any situation, I like to get the rods out first, but I think with this weather and everything looking a little bit moody and the strength of this wind, I'm going to do a sensible thing, set up home, get everything ready. If it means putting the rods out at dark, that's so be it. I've got to do it. So, but yeah, it is savage. Well, it doesn't take long for the light to start fading, but I managed to sneak the rods out just before dark. All I needed to do was just top up with a little bit of bait. Well, it may be winter, but places like this are well worth coming to, and that is a mega way to kickstart my session. The rods have only been in a couple of hours. It hasn't taken too long, actually a bit more than a couple of hours. It hasn't taken too long, but what an epic way to kickstart my session. A beautiful 17-pounder, zip linear, looking mega, wicked fight. I've got some interesting ways to fish deeper lakes, and I wanted to fish here to trial a couple of them. And tomorrow when we get a bit of light, because I didn't get the chance to this evening, because by the time I got here it was pretty much dark, so I managed to get the rods out just in time, baited up in the dark, and I must have been fairly accurate because this is rewarded. But I will run through some cool little stuff with you tomorrow on how I feed it, you know, and how to not be put off by the depths, because places like Esnes have got a good head of fish and plenty of stunners like this. So yeah, no better winter venue, as this one proves. It's been fishing incredibly well with some mega fish coming out, and I'm chuffed to get off the mark. And what's even slightly better is I've got another one in the net. I've had a double take. So yeah, well worth getting out here and braving a little bit of discomfort with the wind and possibly the cold, but we've got to fish. Well, there is certainly no better way to start the day, and I've had a very enjoyable night last night. too early on. I lost one in the middle of the night and had a nice little double take just before first light this morning. Fingers crossed we can get a few more of these little stunners. So this session at Esnes started a few weeks back. Now I had a rare Friday night off and I thought I'll bring my little lad carp fishing. Now Esnes is a great place to come, you know, it's been fishing really well, loads of bites, and also I can bring my son, so perfect place to come along. Now we had a great time, you know, he was bang on form, he had a good time, did a bit of casting, caught a few fish, and yeah, had a really interesting session.
Testing, testing.
Bit louder.
Testing, testing.
There we go, we can see you on camera now.
Move out of the way, so that's not in the screen.
See me. See me. See me.
Well, what have you just caught a carp?
Yeah.
Was it a good one?
Yeah.
Right, we need to catch you another one now, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
How many do you want to catch today?
2.
2? Only 2?
2.
Okay then. 2 is what we're going to do.
Or more.
Okay, anything else you want to say to the camera?
No. I think that's
You sure?
sure.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
Are you positive, Samuel?
I'm positive. Yeah.
This lake is one of the deepest lakes I've ever fished, and it kind of got me thinking. That fish that I had, I caught it at 28 feet, and I was like, wow, that's quite interesting really. Now I also caught it over a ton of bait. Now these fish are on the bait, and although we're into winter, you know, these deep lakes still keep fishing, and I was like, well, this is why it's a perfect place to come. I got home and I started thinking about it, and I was like, right, how can you attack this water? I know they want the bait, and we've got that sorted. Now, what else can I do? Well, accuracy is probably the next best thing. Now, there's 2 ways that I can see a fish in a deep lake. Well, 3. You've got your singles and solid bags and just chucking at to show them fish. But what I decided to do on this trip was have a little experiment. First rod, went out, chucked the marker float out, and then spawned to the marker float. And that meant, as I brought the marker float down, up to the lead, clipped it up. Now, as long as I knew that when the rig landed, the rod was in the same position every time, I knew I was bang on the spot. I also knew the bait was bang on the spot because I was chucking the spawn to the marker float. So that was method 1 sorted. Quite accurate, and see how it goes. Second of all, I've seen a very good angler fish deep pits up to 40, 50 foot, and in fact that lake goes up to 65 foot. And what he did was he spawned, let's just say 12 wraps for instance. He spawned at 12 and he casted at 12. And I was like, yeah, but what about the swim back? What about, you know, he was putting in crumb. And I was like, is any of that getting to the bottom? And it sort of blew my head a little bit. The depths didn't. I can get away with the depths. I'm quite fine with that. You know, in reality, you know, I'm fishing 28 foot, which is more or less free rod lengths, you know, and a little bit more. So depth wise, I'm fine with. But what I couldn't get was he was spawning at 12 and he was casting at 12. Now, what he decided to do was when he casts, he takes it off the clip and he just lets it free fall. I was like, well, that's quite unique. You know, you don't see too many people do that. So I've done that on one rod on this trip as well. And that way I can compare the two to see what happens. Now, at the moment, it's actually 3 fish on the marker rod, two fish on the free fall. So, you know, in reality, they both work and I'll be happy with doing both of them. But it was quite an interesting exercise and 2 ways that I would look at fishing deeper waters. we are now playing another Esnes fish, which is mega. Funny, when I fished it a few weeks back, it went very quiet in the daytime, and I was sort of like, had all that activity last night thinking, is it going to be the same? And yeah, sure enough, this rod is just rattled off. In terms of winter fishing, you can't beat it. You know, it's fishing so well at the moment. Lots of bites to be had. Great fun, plenty of bait. You're not spomming huge distances either, you know, 7 and 10 wraps. It's lovely, lovely, simple, nice fishing. And what's even nicer is when you're playing them and you can see them in the lake like that. Has that gone over or under? Oh, it's gone over all my rods, so that's the result. Oh, we've got a lovely looking scaly fish here. Beauty. I love waters like this. What an exciting fish that is going to be for the future, and that is typical of some of the fish in here. Some brilliant lookers, fast growing, and this one is certainly one of the stockies and certainly one for the future. Very exciting times for Esnes. To come on here in November and have the session that I've had so far, well, you know, that's done. I am going to be greedy. I'd like one more fish, you know, but great fun, great fish. They give an epic fight and they put a great smile on my face. It was also quite interesting that I've just got to get this the right way round. Now, I was spomming at 10.3 wraps and my marker rod was at 10.8. Now that's not a great difference really. I was expecting it to be like a rod length and a half swing back. So, you know, if the marker float's there, I thought my baited spot would be about a rod length and a half behind and swing back in. The reality of it was there wasn't a massive amount of difference. Now I was fishing in 28 foot depth. You know, and there was only about 5 foot in it, you know, and that surprised me really. I did generally think that it would be a lot further swim back than that. Bait wise, this is a deep pit, you know, and they have got great form for continuing fishing right into the winter, so it is a great time to get on it. Now, you know, normally this time of year I'd be casting singles out to fish, zig fishing. Now, zig fishing on here is very epic, and that it's an adjustable zig sort of water, and I haven't done it on this session just purely because I've run out of time, but I do know that they catch a lot of fish on adjustable zigs. You know, they're not always down in the depths, they are up in the water milling around, so definitely do not ignore that. But then that leads nicely onto the bait. Now, baiting wise, I turned up late last night again. You know, I didn't have much time before it got dark, and lo and behold, you know, it's gale force winds. Now, I'm quite a big believer that the undertow is massive, and if I'm spomming crumb, I don't believe that in 28 foot, where that spom lands, it's not going to land on the deck. You know, the undertow is definitely taking it a long way away. So my port of call is to put balls of ground bait out. Now, that's a great way that I know that when that spom hits the water, bang on the spot, I know that the balls are going straight down. Now, the way I've done this is I have bulked it out with pellets, which is something I haven't done much in November, but I do know that these fish are massively on the feed, and I think that's quite important because, you know, they want the bait at the moment. They are feeding hard. You know, in the 2 sessions I've had 10 bites and 8 fish, so they are really on the munch. What I do is I pre-soak the pellets. I give them about 10 to 20 minutes, just soaking in lake water. I drain that all off, and then I start adding my other bits in. You know, I put plenty of chopped boilies in, loads of crummy bits. It's that perfect time of year where I want, you know, a nice full bed of attraction, but not loads of stuff to feed him up. So with a result of that, I've probably blended up 4 kilos of boilies. I've put that in the mix, and then I've just done a couple of handfuls of boilies just to make sure that I've got another alternative hook bait if I want to. Then I've got a little bit of ground bait in there, and that just helps bind it all together, as well as the pellets. And then I've got a bit of party blend and just lots of little bits in. So like I said, I think last night I put 10 on each, and I did put them in the big spom. So I just kept topping up 5 spoms, little and often, just to see if I can entice a bite or two. And lo and behold, it has worked for me quite nicely today. You know, and it's such an easy way. When you get spom in them balls, obviously you make them up. It takes about 2-3 minutes to make 30 balls. I've got them all there, and I've just literally picked one up, bang, and chucked it out. And you can fly through the bait. I think on this session I've done 1.5 buckets. Last session I've done 2 buckets. They've seen a lot of bait in this swim. Now my mix itself, I do over wet it a little bit when I am spomming it out, and that's purely because when you put the ball in the spom, you could just very quickly mold it into place a little bit easier, and it just makes life a lot easier rather than a very, you know, just a dryish, not a dry mix, because obviously you've got to bind it together, but one that isn't quite as wet. You know, sometimes it crumbles up, and that's not what I want to do. So rig wise, the winning bait for me has been a pink pop-up. I've got to admit, I'm partial to a pink pop-up, but on one of the rods I did do a pink wafter, very small pink wafter, and that has produced me just as many bites. I've caught little pop-up and on the wafter. Two simple rigs, 2 fluorocarbons with a little D on it, and they have both worked pretty well. Now, like I said, in my mix I also added a few handfuls of boilies, and now that's just really to give me a slightly different hook bait option more than anything. I've just spoken to Ed, the bailiff, and he said, crikey, been a little bit unlucky with the sizes, you know, with the amount of fish that I've caught, but, you know, I'm catching. It's winter. It doesn't bother me too much. You know, yes, I would have loved to have a nice 20 or 30, because there's plenty of them in here. So what I did do then was to then put on a match the hatch wafter, just to see if that could possibly work. But so far, the session is drawing to an end, and yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up pretty soon. Well, I certainly didn't expect a session like this. The bites keep coming, and it is great fun. This one just absolutely tore off. I really didn't expect too much in the daytime, but I'm certainly not one to be complaining. It looks like another pristine little Carp mirror. Look at that beauty. Oh, look at that! Wowzers. I don't think in all my carping that has ever happened. Literally, the fish come over the net just as it was in, the hook pulled. But I've still got the fish in the net. That is spawny. And then another fine example of the beautiful stock is in this lake. I mean, look at that, there's some beautiful scales. I'm guessing around the 10-pound mark. What I'm going to do is I've got the drone up, so apologies for the noise, but yeah, I just thought I'd slip it straight back. Session end for me. All I got to do is pack down. The sun has come out at long last, and that's quite a nice welcome break after all the wind and rain we've had. But yeah, come check this place out. It's epic, it's great, loads of bites, loads of fun. You won't be disappointed.